Well, good evening and welcome to another incredible episode of Clutching Our Pearls. Today, we are incredibly excited to be talking to what has become a dear friend, or someone who has become a dear friend in my life, and someone who I've seen advocate not only for himself, but for many as they go through not just the challenges of everyday life, but addressing some of the bigger things that often get overlooked. So I am incredibly thrilled to introduce you to Sean Patrick Leonard. Sean, he's amazing.
Hello.
Hello. He's one of our Chicago dudes. He was a native of Lincoln Park. He went to Lincoln Park High School and Columbia College, and he's been a professional actor for 25 years. You've seen him on Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Machine Gun Preacher, Range Runners, which is now on Amazon. Check it out immediately. He's also a filmmaker whose film Love Me Tinder is on the festival circuit right now. For the past 3 years, he's been working on becoming an anti-racist and went through intensive therapy to heal from childhood trauma. Today, he resides in Albany Park neighborhood with his wife and a bunch of tiny humans that he decided to make.
Just two.
Two right ones, right? The best ones.
The best ones.
Knocked it out of the park.
We definitely broke the mold for sure.
So today, we're here to talk about a really deep subject, toxic masculinity and the stigmas of mental health.
Yeah.
And in just watching you go through your life and seeing how you show up on Facebook and how you reach out to others, I have seen so many incredible moments of grace and understanding, but also boundary setting. And a little bit of this is what life is. And if you're not going to show up like a grown-up, we can have a much different conversation. And I love that shit. So if we're ready to go deep, I say we go deep.
Well, they always say if you're going to do it, right, you jump into the deep end and sink or swim, right? Did a lot of sinking in my life. Now learning how to swim now, it's been quite an adventure. I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. And my goodness, I know we don't have a ton of time, and this is something that I think we should just continue this conversation over and over and over for the men in your families, in your lives. Hopefully, you can show them this. Not to say that I have anything wise to say other than I did something 3 years ago for me. And it was the first time that I think I ever did that, which is, so I had a pretty bad drinking problem for a while. And, I hid it from a lot of people. From some people I did not. My friends, used to see me definitely tie one on and stuff like that. And a lot of that was me coping with, a lot of childhood trauma. My parents got divorced at a very early age. My dad and I have a off and on again and off again relationship. And then I was raped when I was 6 years old. So I needed to figure some stuff out. I held on to that one for so long, and it was driving me down the wrong, just a lot of wrong ways. Right. So I finally, I have a really supportive wife. She's amazing. And, she never forced me to do anything. I always wanted to do this on my own. But I was also, controlled by my trauma. So that's some of the stuff I wanted to kind of discuss today, is the fact that, I've been learning a lot in these 3 years about shame and blame and what we as men, especially a straight white male like myself living in 2021, what it has done, what we look like now, what we have been, what is really bothering us. Those are some of the things that I really I think it's time that, men need to go deep, like we started the show off with, right? You got to take the deep dive. So instead of, like saying, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And that's, a big thing that we as white men do in this country, is that we take this status role. Life is built on status, but being an actor, we learn a lot about it in improv and things like that, where, you have a high status character and a low status character, right?
Mhm.
Well, the white male in the United States in 2021, and for probably the past 100 years or so, and gosh, probably since 1776, to be honest, has always been like, I need the power, and I'm always going to take the high status, no matter if I even don't really know what I'm really talking about or anything like that. As long as I just pretend that if I can take the power, take the energy, pull everything in to kind of be my own security blanket, then I can do exactly what I want to do. And we've seen it across the board, politically, just, your next door neighbor, your coworkers, things like that, and it's something that I definitely want to be put my foot right in the middle and say, let's stop this right now.
Can I ask you a question about
Please,
that?
absolutely.
What would you say? So we've got masculinity and femininity,
Sure.
both beautiful and
Mhm.
both used to harm and manipulate
Yeah.
in different ways. So
Sure.
how would you, as a human male, what is the difference between masculinity and toxic masculinity? What is the toxicity? Not necessarily the cause, but
yeah,
how it's
I don't know.
played out.
Sure. How it's played. Okay, so I guess my definition of masculinity would be, I'm very comfortable in my skin as who I am as a human being. But I also can, it really comes down to respect. I think that's the driving line, dividing line between toxic and regular masculinity, is the fact that usually this toxic masculinity, there is no respect. There's no listening, right? We always have the answers. And we tend to dip into the toxic when all we want to hear is our own voice. We are not open to listening. I'm learning this through therapy that I've been doing, for 3 years now, in which, my wife and I would fight about things. And I'm like, why are we fighting? Why are we fighting? And her biggest thing was always like, you interrupt me all the time. And, I took that to my therapist, and she's like, why do you do that? And things like that. And as we worked it out, it was, what if you just let her talk all the way through? It's like, well, because sometimes I have some things that I really want to get off my chest, or I have a great point or something like that. And she's like, just let it go through. And if that point's really that important, you'll remember it. And then you can actually discuss it with her, as opposed to like, wait, I've got to be right. And that's, I think that's definitely something that we're seeing nowadays with, the age of social media and everything like that. Everybody has a voice, everybody has their own opinion, and it has set off a major group of men as to what is going on, because their comfortability is getting ruffled pretty hardcore, and they don't know what to do. So what do is that they take the shame that they usually feel for something and they blame somebody else. That's how they can deal with their masculinity and deal with that toxicity, is that I am not confident or mature enough emotionally that I can actually handle this. So I must take myself out on everybody else. And I think that's that's the distinction between being a masculine male in 2021, where I can shut up now and just listen to you and pay my, be absolutely respectful, and still also be conscious of my misogyny and my racism and those type of things. It doesn't mean that I have to comment on it all the time, but just be aware of it. There's another thing. We're pretty oblivious to a lot of stuff, and because of that, when you ask a man to take that deep dive, and go inward, man, that is there's too many layers of trauma there to want to ever deal with the hard stuff. So, yeah.
My husband is transgendered male.
Oh, wonderful.
And he said it has been one of the biggest shocks of his life, because he went from looking to be like, a super butch lesbian to a bearded white male who is balding. And that's what testosterone and other things did to him. And he says one of the weirdest things is that people started expecting him to have the answers, because now he looked like people in power. He looked all of a sudden like he looks like a straight white man because, but he's like, all of a sudden everybody listens. If I start to interrupt somebody and I apologize, everybody waits and lets me finish. He's like, it has been the weirdest thing, like integrating into a culture of white maleness. And then what do I want to keep? What do I want to, get rid of? I mean, it's
yeah. And I can't imagine that it's very easy to look at the situation in its entirety and actually make decisions about what you want to keep and what you want to get rid of, because it's so incredibly ingrained in our culture and in our families.
Yeah. And, that's a lot of some of the stuff I've really been trying to dig deep during COVID and everything like that. I guess if there is my advice, if I wanted to share anything with the audience, if you haven't done any kind of work on yourself, this is the opportunity, to think about you and what do you want for your future, if you have children, if you have a family, things like that. But, so I've been trying to peel back some of these layers. And, for me, for your husband, Susie, I've been dealing somewhat with some of the same things in that I am transitioning. Right. So, and that's another thing that my therapist and I have really been talking about is I can change, right? I can go leave right now and change my clothes and come back. And I changed, right? I can stop drinking right now. I can, tell you that I'm going to do this and do it right now and things like that. But the actual going through the day by day, when some days I'm full of anger and I don't know why. And some days I'm, like just want to cry and I don't know why. Because, I'm trying to pull out shit and heal from stuff that I laid on the table for 40 years. And, I put it deep down and finally I'm like, okay, now it's time to deal with this. And all of us have trauma in some way, shape or form, I mean, not everybody got raped, but somebody may have had an alcoholic parent in their life or somebody who abandoned them or we all have our stories, right? But we don't talk about our stories. What we do is we just swallow our stories and we press on. I'm talking a lot to my friends and their parents lately and my own parents, and, they're all suffering from pain, either physically, mentally, whatever. And I'm Mr. Advocate of like, I can hook you up, like I'm going to hook you up with some therapy or something. My wife's a healer, in that she can heal your body so she can come, do all this stuff. And it's just amazing to see how many people just don't want help. They don't want to work on themselves. And that actually segues into something I've really wanted to share and something I've really been thinking a lot about. Is that we here in this country, especially men, everything is Ford tough, right? So everything is hard work. I go out and I do my 9 to 5, my 10, my 12 hours, my 16 hours, whatever. Like, I go out there and I work hard for our money and everything like that. Right.
And I can work the most and the hardest.
Right. Right. Yeah. But yet we have this uncommunicated, before I do that. So, no, so we everything is so hard work, everything like that. But then when I ask you to go to therapy, you refuse. When I ask you to work out, you refuse. When I ask you to do anything in your life, it's too hard for you. Yet you brag about the hard work that you put in every single day. and you wear it as this badge of honor, and yet it's almost like you're proud that you're going to die early, and that's the more and more and more I go through this stuff, the more I go, okay, like I see what's going on there. He's going to be dead in about 10 years. I see what's going on there. That's about 5 years. And, like, I don't want to do that, I want the hard work. See, I want my job to be kind of enjoyable, if I'm going to spend the next 20 years doing it, I want to do it because I want to do it. But I want to do the hard work here because I don't want to wake up angry. How many men wake up angry every day? I'm sure a lot. Right. And so then, how about the hard work that we put in our marriage? Do we do that? No, I mean, the stereotype is that we come home after our 12-hour day and then we sit down in a comforter, or a recliner. We turn on ESPN, we drink 6-pack or something like that. And we say, wife, you take care of the kids. And I'm going, my hard work is done for the day. I don't need to parent. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do anything else. And I don't need to work on myself. So now I've lost my sex drive, I've lost my relationship, and I've lost all these other things, because I won't do any of the work on myself. And it's an expectation. That's it. If I put 12 hours into a job, I expect to get laid, to have a hot meal on the table, to, I don't know, make up any old thing that dudes do, right? Or this
Honestly,
stereotype.
that sounds fucking great. Sign me up.
Yeah, I seriously want a wife right now.
Right. Those are the expectations. But if I don't put any work into any of it, why are you going to be happy to say yes? Not to get too graphic, but yes, honey, I do want to take my clothes off in front of you, even though you now weigh 300 pounds and all you do is go to your 12-hour day job and you're an alcoholic and, like you really don't have a sex drive. So, okay. Like these things, we just kind of conditioned ourselves to keep doing. And that is just mind blowing to me. I'm just like, so recently it just feels like that analogy from the Matrix that Morpheus walked up to me with 2 pills and he said to me, do you want to take this one and stay where you're at? Or do you want to take this one and figure your shit out? And I decided that I needed to figure my shit out before I could ever offer anybody else any other shit in this world, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think it's interesting because a lot of what you said to me kind of wraps around the capitalistic society that we live in. If what you do produces money, then it has value.
Absolutely.
If what you do produces a better family, meh. Let's look at another study about how women, if a woman's work was actually paid at a salary, how much.
Oh my God. I was a stay-at-home dad for 7 years. And I'm like, this is the hardest job I've ever done in my life. And it'll be the hardest job I ever do in my life. And if I were to ever put a monetary value to it, we're talking easy 6 figures, So
like, sure, pay me by the hour. That's fine.
Absolutely. How about the overtime? How about when the kid's sick? How about when we have to take them to the hospital? How about, when we have to do all of that other stuff? Right. No kidding. And I'm the cook,
pay.
I clean the house, I cook, I do all of that stuff as well. So I've got like 7 jobs wrapped up in one job. And yet I get paid nothing other than hugs and kisses, which are amazing.
Right.
And the best hugs and kisses ever. But so guys, because we have, now don't get me wrong, I love being a man. I love it. I love the fact that, I'm just getting more and more comfortable in my own skin, kind of thing. But I really dig being a guy. And I dig a lot of the aspects of being a guy, and one of the, but I do know that I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And I'm not the smartest person in the room. And I want to allow for the smartest person in the room to stand up. And I want to support the smartest person in the room. And that's the one thing that guys cannot necessarily get over. They feel like because they've been coddled in some way, or that the only way to deal with their trauma is to rise up, and that's where a lot of this like machismo is coming from. So one of my newest films that I wanted to produce, it has to do all with my trauma of being raped, and confronting my abuser, but also my lead actor is Latino, and I talked a lot about, like the machismo stuff and all of that, that's in his culture, and why that exists. Why can't, because I'm seeing it a lot. And where does it come from? Oh, I'm seeing it now. So you're taking your trauma. So your dad left, something like that. Dad was an alcoholic, mom left, whatever happened. Or you're not, you don't feel like you got ahead. Well, in his culture, they do the crab and bucket syndrome, right? So it's all the crabs in the bucket, and one crab starts to crawl to the top, and another crab grabs him and pulls him back down. And that's what they do in their culture, because they don't want to support each other. They are jealous of each other, and they just want to like crush each other on their way to some sort of top of some fictitious mountain.
Some imaginary place. We're going to harm each other constantly.
Right.
And socially and systematically to get to a place that does not exist.
Yeah. And they're being oppressed as well. So you're like, what the hell? Right.
So I want to ask.
I think I got cut off.
No, you're in. We're not.
All right.
Button on you, baby. No way. No way. But I do want to ask.
Yeah.
As you started your journey into caring for yourself truly and authentically, what were some of the pushbacks that you got, either from your peers or just from your internal monologue?
Wow. So the first thing I needed to establish were boundaries, and I never had them, so I was kind of a yes man in a lot of ways, do that. Yes. Because I didn't want to when you get hurt the way that I got hurt, you tend to be the nicest guy in the room. And with that comes zero self-worth. So you're a good hard worker and you do all of these things, but you don't have a whole lot of self-worth, where if somebody confronts you, yes, you tend to cater. At least I did at sometimes, and I'd get angry about that. And I know that there's other guys out there that would do that too. And then what do? They run to the first guy that they see and blame them, right? I got to get my anger out on them. So I needed to start there, start with boundaries. And the pushback I got, when I was going through this, all hell broke loose politically, with Donald Trump and everything like that. So I lost half of my family because of it, because I started standing up for what I believe in. And I did it through social media and things like that. And I said some really controversial things that not everybody agrees with, but that's okay, because at least I'm trying to get the ball rolling on some stuff that we need to actually talk about. Because if we ever want to live together, we've got to fix a lot of the, problems that are going on. And I'm talking about Mr. White Guy here, like white guys got to do this stuff, like racism, things like that. So I was in a play 3 years ago that it was all about the history of racism in Chicago. Whoa, talk about open my mind, and I did a play with, black, brown, all different colors of people. And for 3 weeks, I didn't say a word because I didn't know what to say, until finally I just said, I know what to say. Listen, that's it. Just continue to listen. Keep listening, and keep listening. And I haven't figured anything out, except I've figured some things out. And one of the things I figured out is that we're on the hook for this. And if we're going to stop a lot of this stuff, we're going to have to do it, kind of thing. That's, easier said than done, of course, when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But I do know that in a one-on-one setting, when I'm starting to now break some men down just by talking to them, even if they hold other, political beliefs or anything like that, we can still talk as masculine men do. And now, as soon as you open your mouth, because I've taken the red pill or whatever it was, I'm like, oh, I can see this guy's shame. I can see this guy's trauma. All he has to do is open his mouth. And I've kind of figured him out in a way. And so with that, knowing that helps me a lot in helping to communicate to him, because not that I'm going to try to shove therapy down his throat and things like that, but I'll ask certain questions like, how do you feel about that? How do you just, release some really potent information that I don't know if you wanted to do that, you know, or not, but I think we should talk about it for a second, right? As opposed to here, and I'm sorry to swear here, but here's what happens is the guy goes, don't be a fucking pussy, right?
Yep.
Oh boy, you know, so that's the other one I've really been, you
There we
know,
go.
trying to wrap myself around. A good friend of mine wrote a monologue all about the pussy for me because I hate that word. I mean, I use it in the terms that I'd like to use it, which are more of a romantic side, I guess, if you want to call it like that. But because it is, if we're going to talk about it, what exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about your genitalia? Is that what we're referencing each other as? You know, if that's the case, so let's think about it. It is the most powerful thing in the universe. But I'm going to break you down by calling you one to make you feel less than yourself. That's exactly what I'm doing with that word. Okay. So that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So yet we've adopted this word and we decide to continue to use it for the dumbest reasons of all time. We need a new word if we're just going to call each other chicken or, you know, wimp or whatever it is. But
Shaming men works as a behavior deterrent or
You're right.
changer thing. And
they call it giving each other shit.
Right. And I don't think that we can one of the things that I come across, and because I came across it in myself first, is the in my anti-racist work, which has been very close to my gender work, which has been very close to my
absolutely
right. It's all the same.
It's all
shit.
starting to do this now, you know,
all timey-wimey. Yeah, totally. And so I feel like there has been a slow social reaction to women getting more rights, being in the workplace, the domestic economic heterosexual situation has changed a lot. You know, it's like, and when, like what you were talking about is that the work that is valued comes from the provider role. You know, I went and provided for my family. I worked, I hunted, all of these things. Now you have shelter and food and I've given you the man things, you know, and it's like, but as women have grown professional skills and that dynamic has changed, there's a tension where, you know, it's like the woman is like, I can do all of these other things. And it's like, so can the man.
Yeah.
So how do we,
I think that also opens us up to, if we can embrace that dynamic and see the value in having equal footing and having tremendous love and patience and respect for one another. It gives us space to allow one another to heal and to go find the kind of help that they need, and to also hold ourselves accountable, because you can't be there for others if you've never been there for yourself.
I think you raise a really lovely, wonderful point, is being there for yourself, right? So I'm really learning how to hold space for myself for the first time in my life. And I do it in a very respectful way to myself first, and then to the people that I'm talking to in the room. Because I'm learning that if I respect myself and I hold space for myself, and I start to think about what I believe in and how I want to be treated and all of those things. Because if we're going to say this whole golden rule of do unto others as you'd have done to you, you know, and you keep stressing it, Christians, and you keep stressing it and keep, you know, and all this stuff. And that's great. Well, then you don't follow your own lead by, you know, look at January 6th, for Christ's sake, not to get all political, but I mean, that is the zeitgeist, the height, the pinnacle of, you know, toxic masculinity. I didn't get my way. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home, and I'm going to wreck some shit on the way out, you know, kind of thing. And yet they're still in denial about any of that stuff. They just want to continue to feed their own egos. And that's what it is that the ego mixes with their shame, and it becomes this combustible, like almost Hiroshima, like atomic bomb that they end up laying on other people. You know, the ego mixed in with their like lack of respect mixes in, and that thus you have this formula for a bunch of people running into the fucking Capitol, you know? It's so amazing to me that if I wanted anything in this world, you know, I mean, it really comes down to me just doing to others as I would have done to me. Absolutely. Well, then let's really break that down, Sean. And what would you do to you? What would you do to you, Sean? Look in the mirror. What would you do to you? Well, for 46 or 43 years, I did nothing for me, right? I did nothing for me. And I didn't know how to answer that question at all. So there's my question to all you men out there. When's the last time you looked in the mirror? And so what would you do for you? Now you can sit there and say, I would do everything for me. I do everything every day. You have no idea how hard I work. There we go. Hard work again. Everything is about hard work. It's kind of like privilege, right? We're teaching each other about white privilege and things like that. What are you talking about privilege, man? I grew up in the streets and Stop. Look in the mirror. Would you want to listen to you? It really comes down to that. There were times I didn't want to listen to myself because some of the things I went along with were bullshit. And I still make, mistakes every fucking day. But I'm at least acknowledging them. At least if I say something racist, I'll be like, fuck, stop it, kind of thing. Because I know I do it every day. Or if somebody makes a joke. But now I'm also, saying, hey, wait a second, don't say that shit. Let's get rid of the conditioning. That's the hardest part.
And you were talking about the January 6th tantrum, violent tantrum. And then the subsequent
Huggies really missed an opportunity there, didn't they?
And the subsequent, spinning of the story. Well, abusive systems, whether it's a family one or a political one, are upheld by gaslighting. It's like, no, that wasn't an insurrection. No, that's not abuse. You just made me mad. No, it's like all of that goes together. I grew up having, through a ton of abuse, and cruelty became my default because that was my ecosystem. Cruelty became my default. And then when I started to see that internally, I was able to see it in my city, in my state, in my country, in my, and then learning the history of it, and it's like an unhealed victim so frequently becomes an abuser.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And if we don't take a damn inventory of our trauma and try to heal it, the cycle never ends. And so I'm so grateful to you and for you looking at your demons.
Thanks.
They're not cute.
It's not it, man. I'll tell you. I will say this. I do want to talk about therapy I know we have to wrap up and everything like that, but I went through this therapy called EMDR.
It's so good. I did it too.
If you have extreme trauma in your life, if you have been abused sexually or anything like that, mentally, whatever, please reach out to us. My EMDR therapist is one of the best, of course. I'll say that because it is an absolute game changer, right? It went from, and all it really does is, even my beautiful, amazing mother is like, there wasn't shock therapy or anything, right? You're not like going to be like one threw over the cuckoo's nest, right? No, not at all, Mom. What it is like, it's like opening Pandora's box, right? There's little boxes of memories and things like that. And we actually get to relive the memories, which aren't very fun. And it's the hardest thing you'll ever go through, really. But it is the most rewarding thing. And so please look into EMDR. Please reach out to Susie and Marie, or myself, if you want to learn more about that. Not that I'm any kind of expert, because I'm not. All I can do is say, here, you should go talk to this lady. I'm really good at that, because you'll do yourself so much wonders. You'll add years to your life. That sounds awesome.
Absolutely.
Better years.
I just like won the lottery. You want to win the lottery? It'll cost you insurance. You know, I mean,
Yeah. But it's also, I think it's also being in a space where you are no longer willing to settle for what life has given you. And
Yeah.
if you look at it through the filter of, you have to take 100% responsibility for your life, no matter what happens to you or what happens in the world. The way that you respond is the only thing you can control. And if that's what you've got, then that's what you've got to use. And I know you turned me on to EMDR after I had been seeing therapists for, these great weekly bitch sessions, which was super fun and got me real far. But there becomes a time when you're no longer willing to settle for the pain that you're in. And I've been so proud to see you as an advocate and as a voice for those that would not traditionally see themselves in this space, getting this kind of help, making this kind of change, and staying as open and loving as you have been. And so I know that we could talk about this for another few hours, and I really do want to get you back on the podcast and dive a little bit deeper into this, because
Can we do part 2 right now?
Right.
there has been a lot of humbling in my own life in watching how you move through this world. And to
Wow.
know that not only are you strong enough to take care of your family in non-traditional and traditional ways, but you're strong enough to put yourself out there in ways that most men have been told is simply not acceptable. It's a chance for us to all see where growth can come from and where it can lead us, and that it's not a path that's straight and narrow. It is windy and twisty and fucked up, and it is going to get hard and then easy, and then it could get right back to hard again, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. Are you worth it?
A lot of people who suffer extreme abuse are convinced that they're not.
I know. This
And
guy
so
right here.
That's one of the first things you have to fight. And it's like, your trauma, my trauma, Marie's trauma is not your fault. It's not fair. You didn't deserve it, and it's not your fault. But your healing is your responsibility. And it's
If you think so, I mean, and that's what it really comes down to, is so many people give up on themselves, and like, we got one shot, right?
Yep.
Unless you're a Buddhist or you believe in reincarnation and all that thing. I hope so, that would be lovely, but it's also hard, like you said, Marie, and all I know is that love is hard, but is the most rewarding thing. So why not fall into love, then fall out of it?
So I'm gonna close us on that, because learning to love yourself and have grace with yourself is one of the hardest and most effective lessons you can ever bring into your life.
Yeah.
I know that we're going to continue to explore this. I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you, Sean, as you do continue to do your advocacy work and continue to be a beautiful voice for the tapestry of what humanity can look like. Please make sure that you connect with Sean Patrick on his various platforms. You'll be able to follow his upcoming movies and all of the things that, all the different projects that he's working on. You can also follow us on a variety.
Wow. Impressive.
We hit all of them. It was great. We would like to thank Safety Chicks and Troy Tech as well as Fifth Third Bank and Speech IRL for being sponsors today. We appreciate you all so much, and the love and energy that you all put into the revolution as we get out there and continue to try to change the world. And make no mistake, that is exactly what's happening here. We look forward to you joining us on the next show. Let's change the world.
Thank you, Sean Patrick Leonard.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies. Have a lovely evening.